I'd ask you how you are, but I think I've asked everyone personally how they are. Everybody seems fine. Shall we go over it? I don't know. You good? We are blessed and lucky today and have with us Mr. George Wallace over there. Drove in from Long Island today, which I respect, although he does have a convertible, which makes that a little less painful than it might otherwise be. Doesn't though, my wife's like, he drove a convertible at 70 miles an hour. Is there a problem with driving a convertible at 70 miles an hour?
Ask you about it. How many bucks you gonna get?
Is that basically?
You about to go over here.
Okay. But it wasn't an unpleasant experience, right?
No, I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah. Definitely was, so I mean, it sounded good, man. Doesn't make it.
It doesn't matter. All right. So George is here. Straight from Huntington, Long Island, New York. Those of you who know George's work know you're in for a treat. Those of you who haven't heard it, you're still in for a treat. And I'm just gonna read a little bio from George's new book called Last Bacchanal. Also, there's a rumor he has an album out, which is called something with Antioch. What's it called?
Oh, so this is actually.
So this is Antioch,
Yeah.
which is not yet come out full press, right? So, okay, oh, okay, okay. So this is Last Bacchanal. We have copies of it over there for anyone who's interested. And I'll just read you George's latest bio. He's got a million lives and a million bios. So George is a writer in residence at the Walt Whitman Birthplace, first poet laureate of Suffolk County, and author of 40 books and chapbooks of poetry, published in many different places. He's a prominent figure on the New York City poetry performance scene. I can tell you that for a fact. He travels internationally to perform, leads writing workshops, and lectures on literary topics. He is a former student of W.B. Snodgrass and Jan Bell, and teaches at Pace University in New York City, and has done residencies at Harvard Center for Hellenic Studies in Washington, D.C. Yes, this is part of George's Greek heritage, which you wouldn't know from his last name, but it's complex. He has worked as a Peace Corps volunteer, healthcare administrator, community organizer, community journalist, active duty medical officer, and local historian. His work is collected at the Special Sections Collection, LI Studies Institute of Oxford University. He is the editor of Poetry Bay, the co-editor of, well, Great Weather for Media is now defunct, but he's the editor of Poetry Bay, poetrybay.com, which is a nice little online journal attached to it, and editor of Long Island Quarterly and Walt's Corner, actually Long Island Quarterly. And Walt's Corner is an interesting thing. It's a poem in a local newspaper on Long Island. They curate.
In a newspaper founded by Walt Whitman.
Yeah.
1938.
Pretty amazing.
I understand.
Yeah.
I wonder.
And which is why they're willing to publish poetry. And mix the other stuff, yeah, right?
Yeah.
Not every newspaper will do this.
They want to keep it quiet.
Yeah. So that's great, and he's the editor of the 2022 Blue Light Press anthology, From the Inside New York City Through the Eyes. Live here, just a nice little anthology, everything. George, anything else that we need to? And his son is getting married in Italy on like next week.
Yeah.
So you're leaving here, driving back to New York City, and then flying to Italy.
Oh.
God bless you. George Wallace.
All right, all right. All right, hello, everybody.
Hello.
I know a lot of you from various contexts. Now, this context. George Guy, I know of diverse kinds of contexts, so it's good to see him here in this location. George has been a friend to New York City poetry, Long Island poetry, jazz poetry, and so much more over the years. This is my second visit here to Dansville, and it's really really pleasant experience. So thank you all for coming out today. I do have, George just said 30 minutes worth of poetry, which we'll see how that goes, see if and if I see any faces starting to drop off, I'll finish it. And then I think there's time for questions too. So. Now, this is all, I guess, what he didn't say in the bio, which is, these bios are automatically outdated as soon as they come out, is the level of international activity I'm involved in now. And how it's changed, changed the kind of work that I write, the diplomacy required to be an American, behaving in a communal way with folks from around the world to be supportive without being arrogant. So I mean, there's a lot of delicacy and a lot of tact required. This poem that I'm going to read to you, the first time, is read first in Medellin, Colombia, and it was because they said got to do a gossip. So that's King of Words right there. But I came up with this called Peace is Honey. Peace isn't the absence of war. It's sweet milk in a clean bucket. It's the bleating of goats in an honest man's yard. Peace is the honking of geese in a pond, cicadas chirping in the tall grass. Peace is olive presses, wine presses, harvesters clamoring for more fruit in the foothills of the lower Galilee. More than silence of dawn with no rockets to disturb it, peace is roosters crowing, hens clucking, plow points, shovels, stiff rakes and hoes rattling in the back of a pickup truck. It is the buzz of harvest machines combing the harmonious land. Horizon to horizon, feeding all the children, women and men, all the children, women and men, without prejudice, giving all the people on the land full employ. Peace is Palestinian boys in the areas of Dura, west of Hebron, working their fathers' hives. There's a cloud of honeybees hovering over the rooftops of Kibbutz Ayelet Hashemar. Peace is not just the absence of small arms fire or treaty signing ceremonies in faraway capitals. It's more than just who gets what, who loses what, and both sides agreeing to accept it. Peace is more than the absence of war. Peace is wild ducks splashing in the Jordan River. Peace is the shared laughter of workers in the field. Peace is honey and milk in the land of milk and honey. We're, Jennifer and I were talking about optimistic optimism. Now I've been trying to inject that into it's a positive sort of a statement in these dark times. You can protest, you protest and we should protest, but to make some sort of a statement about possibilities, new hope, and rekindle hope, I think is something that we can do especially uniquely in this dark time as poets. For all we know, this is paradise. What if apples were still apples? Snakes still snakes. And we're all still living in paradise. What if Eve is in the summer of her years, running with antelope thighs, supple and alert, her face tan? What if nobody has had to crawl on their belly on account of some fairy tale crime? Adam lies blameless in a grove of ripe pears, admiring Eve's gate. Admiring how evening light arrives in Eden on hushed wings to remind him of love's caresses. No temptation, no shame, just a curious bird singing in sweet ellipses, singing with the trees, a song with no words about God and summer and sunlight and waterfalls, a simple song about how perfectly a pear fits in a man's hand, in Adam's hand, equally perfect in Eve's hand too, and how generously its juices spill onto his chin, hands, chest, almost as if by design, singing how we are all of us two halves of a single fruit, hanging from a paradise tree. Problems with it. I remember Bob Dylan did the song "Lonesome Death of Hattie Cow." It was you saw a newspaper, but just like a very small, clip, 2 paragraphs about some maid who was working in a Baltimore hotel, and some guy next door had was fooling around with this gun in his cane and shot her through the floor and killed her. The Lonesome Death of Hattie Cow. Great classics. So I didn't do it intentionally, but I was reading in Newsday about a guy named Boom Boom, Larry Ports, who was a bass player in rock bands and blues bands on the scene around Long Island, and he was he died in not captivity. He died in a police station when he was taken in by the cops, and this thing said there was going to be a full investigation, which there never was. Right. So I wrote this poem. I did actually track down his brothers to let them know that I had this poem to make sure I didn't step on any toes. So it's called Riding with Boom Boom.
Say again.
Riding with Boom Boom. Riding. And the facts are simple and speak for themselves. But facts don't always tell the whole story. Boom Boom was a blues man. He played the blues. He was 60 years old. He lived alone in a split-level shack in Kings Park, Long Island, New York, with a ramp on the front and a canvas band back and a maple tree in the yard, which his kids used to swing on when they were little, before they moved away. He liked his chocolate. He liked his Jack Daniels. He liked his bass guitar. He liked his kids and his friends and a woman or two, and he liked putting on his riding gear and going out into the Long Island Expressway at night and ride, baby, ride. And the cops say they didn't target Boom Boom. Cops say they didn't track him down. The cops say they were just protecting the public when they came to his house to haul him in. They said someone phoned him, told them he was behaving irrational. Irrational. Irrational to be the person they don't want you to be. Irrational to refuse to swallow the 9 to 5 routine. Irrational to fight the leather-bound belt they strap you down with when the psych doctors come around to pick you apart. Irrational to cut loose, to escape, to be passionate, to ride out free when the blues and the booze and the passing lane just aren't enough, and you have got to get away from the pain of living in this fucked up rational world. Facts are simple. They speak for themselves. The facts are never enough. They just do their job. Like the cops do their thing. Like doctors do their job. Like liquor like motorcycles, like the blues does its job. Boom Boom was 16 years old. He played the bass guitar. Everybody said he was tons of fun on stage, but sometimes the bass guitar isn't enough to make the blues go away. They took him in. There was a struggle, so the cops say. He hit his head on something, so the cops say. He hit his head on, the cops never said. Wow, a 60-year-old with a bad back that even put up that kind of a fight against a bunch of cops. His name was Ports, Larry Ports, P-O-R-T-S. That's a good name. It's a simple name. It speaks for itself. But names are just facts. All they do is their job. Names aren't enough to cure what ails you in a messed up, rational world. That's why his friends called him Boom Boom. That's how he wrote. That's how he really was. The newspapers reported it. Cops stole their version of it. Someone named Larry Ports died. Well, that ain't Boom Boom. Boom Boom ain't dead. The cops cannot kill Boom Boom. All over America tonight, all over the world, men will be riding motorcycles, women will be getting tattoos, kids will be drinking Jack Daniels, and bluesmen will be playing the blues. And I do not know where you will be, what you will be doing tonight. As for me, I'll be riding with Boom Boom, getting irrational. Thanks. I have one that so harkens back to avoidance and introducing something on. Okay, you know what I did that poem about pieces of honey was I was looking at New York Times day after day. Somehow I managed to subscribe to the New York Times online and actually pay for it and actually get it. Got it for about 2 weeks, and then I like put something on so I couldn't get it anymore, even though I was paying for it. But that's neither here nor there. During that time period, however, I was like looking for pictures that were, oh, here's an idea to do some kind of a plastic poem, from a picture that appeared. So that's why I saw the picture of these Palestinian boys in a field, they're working with honeybees and the dad's beehives. I saw another one. It was 3 or 4 refugee kids in a camp somewhere, and they were smiling. They were just beaming. They were so, they had their arms around each other and they were posing for the camera. It was this unbelievable, just really a normal photograph of kids that are happy and sad and have a future. And that picture was so at odds with all the things, all that we're told, all that we're expected to feel, not just about innocence or guilt of refugees or people that come into the country, but how much they're suffering. This is the early days of the first one, the kids in the cages and separated from their parents, and all those things, traumatic things. And here in the New York Times is a picture of 3 refugee kids smiling. And I was like, what can I read out of this? How can I make sense of this? And this is what I came up with. Why are the refugee children smiling? The children you cage behind bars and walls and razor wire, they are not afraid of you. In fact, they're smiling. In every refugee camp, in every detention center, you try to hold them in, even as you count them captive, even as you punish them for your own sins, even as you parade them before cameras and lash them with the tongues of your ministers of hate. They see through your weaknesses. They see through your fears. They see through your crudeness and cruelty and the futility of your old world scapegoat ideologies. In fact, they see through walls. What do they see? They see a future without you in it. That's why the refugee children are smiling. That was a few years ago, and I wrote this one today, this morning. I put it up, and somebody asked me to read it. I don't know, kind of raw. And I never read things that are that. Because I don't know if I'll like choke up reading this. But I'm going to try. Similar, 8 years later, it's the same thing. America, where will the children go when you are through with your incarcerations? America, where will the children go when you are through with your incarcerations? America, you're no match for them. These immigrant children, these babies in cages, these innocents in alligator alleys, their skin does not bruise so easily as you wish they might. Their bones not so easily shattered. America, dangerous land blinded by greed, caught in the terrible stranglehold of your own appetite. You are the weaker for your hate. And the Democrats, you have voted upon yourself. This idolatry of yours, money, power, fame, is empty. Their spirits are stronger than yours. There will never be enough. Not 1,000 years of cages to intimidate or enslave them or wall them out. And this is from my grandfather, or your grandfather possibly. Like the wind which has wings, you cannot expel them, though your armor is strong and your razor wire gleaming. Unlike your rockets and your guns, unlike your concrete and your lies, true hearts cannot be broken. True hearts cannot be broken. They are the mountains you cannot conquer. They are the lakes and streams you cannot poison. They are the perfectly empty sea you cannot even imagine. They will blow your hatred aside, turn your cages to shame. And one day, make a better place for themselves and for you. Your terrorism will falter, your hysteria die, and they will grow wings on their heels and fly into a sun you have never seen. And if you're lucky, they will carry you with them. You certainly do not deserve. Sort of angels will open up your heart again and you will welcome them, the refugees, the children, slow-eyed, white with sun, defiant, and the breath of the goddess will be sweet again in your lungs, and the love of children high in your mind, as high as the pearl white casement and magnificent cloud of heaven, so high the sky blue jet trails will glow against it. Okay. All right, so, but some of you aren't old enough to relate to this. When we had a big heart, I'm talking about the 60s, generation, love everybody. When we had a big heart, when like a big fire truck load through rush hour traffic to rescue the world from itself, and our free souls begin their journey through the world, not with it, not against it, just through the world. And love was the word, and hearts were near to bursting on every doorstep and in every puddle and plate. When, in the reflection of possibilities, like a belly full of miracles, when pure hearts brew to overfilling despite the cold realities and round and red as radishes. And we had had enough of all the bullshit that surrounded us. and surrounded our all too human existences. And we're ready to change the world. When shimmering over the sky and the city, shimmering over the city like FM radio, a new kind of music sucked all the bad air out of our miserable and deranged animal brains and replaced it with collective joy. And ignorance and prejudice were defrocked and sent off to the ash pits of history to contemplate their many crimes. And the world put on this new suit of clothes and surprised itself in the mirror with how good it looked. How good it looked again, and went out into society and overcame its own imperfect nature and smiled, and life was on fire again, something you could almost taste in the genuine equine motion of our bodies, the genuine equine motion of our bodies approaching each other openly on a dance floor. You could smell it, the smoldering ecstasy, you could feel it. Nobody was going to bring us down again. No, not this time. Music stopped. The streets were to us like the trajectory of stars, and love sweetened their tongues for each other like spiced rum. And you extended your hand to mine. I took it and offered mine the same. And the day glowed laughter. Every woman and man sang a panegyric to every other man and woman and child. And we were momentarily free. And no small-brained politicians to fuck us up. Free. And no Perk Walker betrayal or anger or hate or manufactured war to shame us. Free. Until our lungs hurt to bursting with so many kindnesses, so many kindnesses like too much cotton candy at the fair. We hung around on the edge of a cliff on the western shore, and we waited for the sun to go down, and we were magnified. We were magnified. And never made to feel small. When we had a heart that we had a big heart. You know, that's what is the thing you do right about this? Is that Kathy?
Yes.
Open the door and out come the people.
Oh, church, that's
Sure,
church.
that's the people. Open the door and out come the people. This poem's based on that. One earth, one people. One earth, one people. The more I sleep, the more I dream. The more I dream, the better I pray. So listen to this. Here's the wall. Here's the people. No one can say it better than that. Here's the smoke rising like a church, rising like a campfire, rising like a kitchen fire, rising like the border that separates us from each other and blinds us to each other. Town from town, pueblo from pueblo, ranch from ranch, and farm animal and farm family, each from each, the smoke that blinds us, the people who cross borders to just be with each other, to just live with each other decently. No, nobody knows this better than us. These are people in Rio Grande. This is no border. This is the front line in the war against borders. And no one can tell us what walls we should build between us. Walls. Walls. Beside us, around us, outside, inside us. Behind, in front of us, stumbling walls, it's ridiculous. I'm surprised we haven't all gone blind and no one knows this better than us here, where the people are undivided, here where the people rise up like the river and join together with heaven to form one great river, united as the sea. To eat, to laugh, to work, to prosper, to pray together, because the more we pray, the better we dream. One earth, one people. A wall which is no wall is a river that's no river at all, and we are that river. One people here and everywhere we go, reverential, strong, better than what anybody takes us for. What do they know about us? What do they know about us? We flow along, we listen, we dream, and nobody can stop us from doing that. Nobody, nothing, nobody, no borders, no walls. Open your hearts, open your doors. Out come the people. I'm sorry, one more, I think. There's a couple of cultural references I see. I remember the Chicago Convention protest in 1968. Chicago. And, there's protesting in the street, Lincoln Park, whatever the neighborhood was in Chicago, because Mayor Daley's being hanging like a people. And the crowd started chanting, "The whole world's watching. The whole world's watching." Right? Not like today, but but in 1968. And they were right, and the whole world was watching. That statement was really powerful. So, the whole world's watching. So that's one thing, maybe you'll find something in here. Another is purely subjective, although you may have had the same experience, and you don't like to dance in public. You don't like to step up to, there's people dancing, you don't want to get up in front of people and dance, you'd be embarrassed. And if somebody says to you, dance like nobody's watching. Dance like nobody's watching, right? And I was like, that never worked for me. It never worked for me. But but that's a point, here. Dance like the whole world's watching. Dance like nobody's watching. And then this is Emma Goldman, who was a anarchist and a revolutionary in the 19th, early 20th century.
Lived in Rochester.
Huh?
She lived in Rochester.
Yeah, I get it. Right? She said, if I can't dance, it's not my revolution. Which is beautiful. That says a lot. Just like we were saying before, in the face of the darkness, dance. Celebrate and celebrate yourself and each other. So I put all those things together, and I wrote this poem called "Dance Like the Whole World's Watching." So I'll conclude with this. Suffer in the wind, cry in the shade, shudder with the lonesome, howl defiant as woes, dance like the whole world's watching. Though the fascist tanks are rolling, though the breath of the wounded is at your neck, though the government of the meek is crumbling, and the merchants of fear hold sway, and the marksman blinks, dance in your shoes, dance in your cars, dance with your spinning wheels. If we can't dance, it's not our revolution. If we can't sing our barbaric yawp, there's no song. Dance like horseshoe crabs and old woman's beard. Dance like William Blake, angel-headed at the baptismal font. Dance like a bluesman holding court in the unyielding cotton fields. Dance for the children of a failed God, for the postman, for the barber, for the thief. Dance for orphans scraping at your door, and tin pan gods and false leaders who deceive us. Dance for naked prophets raked in by the millions from the mouths of the poor. Dance for the dead beggar at the corner. Dance for the free man held captive at the illegal border, and the clowns and the idiots and the pretty women and the men in their empty-hearted limousines and proud boys firing off rounds in the adolescent playground. Some folks say we should dance like no one's looking. I say dance like the whole world's watching. Dance for lovers and losers at both ends of the leash. Dance for the freely addicted. Dance like your life hangs in the balance because it does. Dance like there's no tomorrow for the lost and unaccounted for the unknown astronaut who left us here in the first place, for the rebel at the hangman's noose, and the poor man with his many reckless adventures. Dance for the revolutionary subdued by tyrants. Dance for the rich man in his chains of ambition. Dance until the music disappears for the heartbroken, for the medicated, for the put upon, for the fooled, for the self-doubters, for the straight-laced, for the street vendor, the town crier, and the boy who cried wolf. Dance for the elevator operator, the street sweeper, for the unemployed, for the invisible and the falsely accused, for the anonymous helmsman whose hand is timid at the till, and the secret wanderer asleep in his cloud of discontent. Dance, poets, dance. For the underestimated, for the overwhelmed, the uneducated, the surrounded, the weaver of impossible dreams. There are hearts yet to be kindled in the cold, dark night that surrounds us. There are souls of 10,000 nations yet to be liberated from their nests of shame. Dance, poets, dance.
All right, George.
Thank you.
Well, poets, ask some questions too. Questions, yeah.
Who is it line dance like real bacon and a what baptismal font? No, I can't recall that. I really moved that line. Right?
Yeah, it's like William Blake at the baptismal font.
That's right. That's right.
You could visit his baptismal font. It's in London. Place. I forget the name of it, but I just once I start reaching for minutia, that seems to create a collage and composite. It's like things may be pretty tangential, but in the context of the other things, which are like right on point, they take on new meaning. So that's the idea of these list type of.
Questions and comments?
Huh?
Mr. Wallace, he's got some responses, questions, comments.
So I have to ask that last poem,
Yeah.
was that based on personal experiences? Were you actually get a chance to do some of that?
No, it's there are some of the actual things, yeah, many, a certain number of those things are on, which appeared on that palette when I started to paint this particular painting, this particular poem. It came from actual experiences or distorted experiences, but for me anyway, I don't know how it is for you, but I don't make a distinction between imagined things and things that actually really happened, or things that I wish would happen or wish didn't happen.
In this context, that's good, George, but say those words again, no distinction between the real and the imagined. In other contexts,
Yeah.
that's killing us.
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to say that's some kind of not that I like to, but you can imagine that would be a phony sort of a thing to say. Oh yeah, I don't make a distinction between reality and unreality, but but actually, it's just liberating. If you're stuck with the things that you actually experience, man, you're gonna run out of material. You gotta get as much on your palate at that moment. Things that you overhear or read or something happened to somebody else, and get that on your palate so you can use it. You're giving yourself permission to express, as widely as all of these things that provide you with information and ideas can bring them to you. I mean, make the palette broad, and then you may not use everything on it. So there's the generative process. I think we all know. The generative brainstorming. You don't start out going like, no, I can't use it. No, I can't use this. No, you don't use judgment in the beginning. The best brainstorming process is to like sling it all up on the like Jackson Pollock and like throwing things on a canvas, and then at some point you start to go like, and I've seen a movie of Jackson Pollock where he does this. He looks at me, goes like, all of a sudden he stops, he goes like, no. And he starts all over again. You may have seen it. He's like, he's out in the Hamptons and he's like plexiglass or something. So the judgment, the intentionality, the rational cognitive decision making, which says, how do I shape this stuff to make it into, coherent whole? Doesn't come at the beginning. You have to like turn that off. You gotta turn it off and let everything flow.
It's like you said, one of the poems, you know, but facts are everything, and there's so much more not said. Yeah.
When the boom, boom, boom,
Maybe that's the boom.
yeah.
I'm sorry, I missed your point.
Oh. Well, it's like, there's the truth and then there's more than the truth, or
Oh,
the
right.
fact. But everything goes beyond the fact.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, that's true. I mean, it does reflect it. Yeah.
So,
Who was it, Jack Webb, the guy in Dragon? Just a fax man.
Right.
Man, for poets, it should be anything but the fact, man.
Yeah.
We'll come back and create a new fact, because really a poem is a new fact. It is composite, you're not starting with truth, you're ending up with truth. Based on conjecture, observation, perfect observation. Right? No, we're wrong.
it's no coincidence, George, that you've curated the reading series at the Walt Whitman House for years, right? And it's easy to hear Whitman's influence on what you do. What other poets or philosophers sort of have informed what you do when you write?
Well, I came to Whitman and, for that matter, Allen Ginsberg, some of the ways that Allen writes, especially in the Sunflower. There's, absolutely listing like this. And sometimes Woody Guthrie, there's some of the passages in Woody Guthrie's Bound for Glory. He talks about busking for recorders with Cisco Houston in Seattle among the skids. And he does the same kind of listing. He said it's a technique that didn't, Whitman kind of like innovated by doing it, but it's so natural to do it. But the important thing is to be cognizant of rhythm, the pacing. It goes to start to go faster and slow down, faster, and I can do this. So it doesn't become a blur. So that the trajectory has more consciousness. And it's important to be aware of that. And the front loading of lines, anaphora, I think it is, anaphora that Whitman uses, which is really important because otherwise he can get sing-songy about it. If it's like, that kind of a rhythm. But the it's like if you have more or rely on those kinds of phrases, things like watching like a boxing throwing punches. It's got that kind of power and energy if you use that kind of rhythm. And Whitman is just super with that. But prior to that, I was more interested in French surrealists. I was like, I like Jacques Derrida and Albert Tom and deconstruction. I like the idea of, this is probably where I'm saying, don't start with the facts. Deconstruction, reconstruction is like, well, they had their own political reasons for being alienated from the world at the end of World War One. So they were saying, let's take apart logic. Let's be illogical, deliberately illogical, not to reconstruct it, but just to tear it down because they saw the horrors of what logic can do in the world. So, but I'm not from that era, and I've always felt the purpose of deconstruction is to, to bring it back together afterwards. And that's what the Cubists did. You look at Picasso and you got, you're looking at a figure from or a nude or somebody with a guitar from 12 different angles, and the Cubism does that. It doesn't just say I'm taking this stuff apart. It's saying I'm giving you a new way of seeing a thing from multiple directions.
Couple of things. So you're talking about sense versus logic, we were talking about earlier,
Yeah.
right? And rhythm, obviously, and sound play a big role in converting something that's literal and logical into something with a different sense. There's a lot of poetry out there now, at least I'm reading a fair amount of poetry out there now that pays minimal attention, it seems to me, to sound and rhythm. And I hate to say that, but it is true. Most maybe it relies on line break for an effect. But do you think that associative thought is enough to sustain a poem without attention to rhythm and sound?
I think that a poem should achieve meaning, but it should not be subject to the tyranny of meaning and how it's created. It just is like
Interesting distinction.
you go like, I'm gonna base this on something that actually happened in the video. I'm gonna start with meaning, you're dead.
Yeah.
You're dead. Let the thing flow, let the music happen and shape it so it reaches meaning. So that's, Triggering Town, what's the guy's name over in the West Coast? Can't remember his name, but he said, you follow the idea of a poem like a fish down a river, and when you
Richard
finally
Hugo.
catch it,
Richard
journey.
Hugo, his name is.
Huh?
Richard Hugo.
Yeah,
Montana.
so important. It is, the process of writing, which is an art form, writing poems is an art form, aside from the poem itself or the delivery of the poem in front of other people, really requires that for it to be live. If I do that, you experience it. If I do that, every time I pick up that poem, I re-experience it. It's not like, oh, I sent this, so okay, I know the meaning of this. No, the music just in and of itself is, it's whistle-worthy. Yeah.
Richard Hugo dispensed with the text and read.
Dispense with the text.
Dispensed with the text that read. He read the memo.
Oh, well. Yeah. I got you. I got a lot of flack. I got a lot of flack in Northern Ireland. Some guy was a punk rock producer and came to Portugal and said the troubles were over. And then so the first time you could go up to the second floor of a building, the cool building never had. There's no buildings with 2 floors or more because they just get blown up. But there's a place called Morrison's, and they asked me to read. So it was a celebration of the idea that there was submission in Belfast that you could go up to the second floor to a bar and it was blown up. Anyway, so I was asked to this by this guy, and what you read, and there was this older gentleman. I'm the old gentleman now, but he was the older gentleman at the time, and he was catcalling. Which they like to do that in Ireland. They like to do that in Ireland. They like to shout out from the audience, and it's universal experience. But he goes, why are you reading it from the paper? Why don't you memorize it? And he's got kind of a point, but I mean, if you're gonna write a poem a day, and since 1999 until for 12 years I wrote a poem a day. How are you going to memorize those? You don't have no time. You have no time to generate new work. By a certain point, the supply exceeds the demand. There will never be a demand for that number of poems in virtual office. So for everybody, including my wife. But
Especially.
Yes, it's it. So, you know, but there is a point to it, you know, and some people memorize it, but if you can do that, but at this stage of my life, I'm too old. Yeah, I can memorize stuff, and you probably can. If you, are you good at memorizing?
No.
No.
You have to be.
Right. What was your question?
Yeah, well, D.H. Lawrence said, carried this around with me all my life. He said, the cries for freedom are but the rattling of chains.
Say again, Stephen.
The cries for freedom are but the rattling of their chains.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So thank you for crying for freedom as often as you do. But I've seen freedom, and it's a lot scarier than you think.
How?
It's,
You know, anything that impedes me from my higher instincts and my higher impulses is change. Is change. Memorizing is change. You know.
there's like different tiers of freedom. I think, I hate to say it, but like, if you read Dostoevsky, a number of his characters suggest that, or the chapter, The Grand Inquisitor in the Brothers Karamazov, suggests that people can't handle freedom. The vast majority.
That's true, Nicholson's line.
Yeah, right. You can't handle, I mean, people just can't handle freedom as we think of intellectual freedom. Like, you get a group of smart people like this in a room, and they start contemplating what real freedom is. But for most people, that's a little too much. Like, if you're left to your own devices and what you want to do, you won't know what to do, and you're probably just creating mayhem. But that's one level. Some of your other poems, you were talking literally about people in cages. That's another tier, very basic tier of freedom. So, how do you think of freedom? Or are you thinking of freedom when you write poems, or is it just something you're arriving at?
I think that I don't use it as an absolute abstract term. I use it, you know, for the specifics of the situation I'm writing about. I think, you know, so I mean, that would be a logical way to do it, rather than say, okay, this is some absolute idea of what freedom is. I mean, I didn't cross over the side of the highway driving on me. I did go 80 miles an hour at certain points, you know, because my GPS, whatever that thing is in my phone, it says it's car ahead. So, so you can slow down. So you don't get caught anymore. But you know, so we have to, the thing is that left side or the right side of the ring, whichever that side of it is, which, you know, gets us down the road, make sure we pay our bills and balance our checkbook and get to work and, don't forget to zip our zippers or, you know, a lot of things that we have to do. We are compelled because we agree to live in a society to do those things. Okay, well, it's okay with me that I need to do those things because you need to do those things. I don't want to have your car coming down the way. So I mean, the limitations on freedom in a society that we've all agreed to be in is logical and is necessary, and I support it. But it's annoying. It's annoying because in the moment of creation, you don't want that to be operating. You want to shut that off. Right? That's what I think anyway.
Sounds like abstraction is your enemy.
More questions, other questions.
Yeah,
Yes.
I just wanted to say that poetry written by anyone in any shape or form has always been very mysterious to me. I don't like the lines that rhyme, that much I can tell you. But tonight I realized that poetry is song. Poetry is music. You were talking about the rhythm. And it made me want to ask you, are you recorded somewhere? I mean, I'm not running my phone so that I recorded your readings, but I heard and felt what you were saying
yeah.
because it was a song inside my soul.
I had a, you know, I did an album with David Amram, the jazz beat guy, you know, worked with Jack Kerouac and beats in the 50s. And that's the spoken word. We did it in one afternoon, a 2 hour session, 15 different tracks. And I spoke and he was, you know, I had the headphones on in this room and he was out there with his multi-instrumental capability. And I'd hand him something and he'd take like a real quick look at this, that's genius, right? And I'd go like, okay. And I'd start it and bang, you hit it in one take. He would make it happen so that there was an integration between the music that he was doing. And I could hear him doing it as I was shaping my delivery to match what he was doing.
That's still with you.
Sorry?
That's still with you.
Yeah, well, yeah. So that's, you know, that album's available. And I did one with a guy in a farmhouse in Cornwall, England. And he had a studio in a farmhouse. And he said, just, you know, get in the studio and give me eight poems. And then he subsequently came in and added in music, electronic music mainly to so I mean, that's another example. You know, I performed in Beacon with for Mike Jakovic. He's got this very good poetry and jazz series in Beacon. It's maybe something you all say. I'm not sure what he was into. So, but just to stand up, you know, and have a jazz combo and and listen and hear, and they're also listening and hearing, and you're working together to create something in the moment that spontaneously is something I've done. You know, all these things are recorded in one place or another. More recently, I've actually, you know, I worked with a an Italian soprano on some very hard to grasp, you know, modern music. It's beautiful. You know, worked with a band in Athens, Greece, and they turned a bunch of our songs into like pop songs. Happy go lucky Greek pop songs. So there are a lot of different things that you know, and most recently I've been farming out, you know, so poems to a musician, somebody who's also a musician like Lee Kostrensky, and say, hey, can you make a song out of this? And done maybe 2 or 3 albums where, you know, the actual live musician has taken it and fashioned something. One of the most exciting ones for me was Tom Wolf from the Boston Nova Beatniks. He had that bass player that I can't remember the guy's name, but he was the bass player for Paul Simon. Dum, 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 that guy. Dum, 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 dum. And he got that guy to create a track, and then I read over the top of that. So there's many different ways that this can be done. Most recently, I've been working with creating lyrics and then turning them into adapting them in, you know, from poems and then working up actual songs out of it. But the controversial part is that I'm working with AI, so it doesn't bother you. It's then you'll enjoy these things, and if that bothers you, you're gonna hate them.
We talked about this before, maybe we'll just, this last word, maybe like, we talked about AI and you were talking about using AI as part of a creative process, you know, as a legitimate part of a creative process. You want to just say anything about that, how you feel about it?
I'm experimenting. I'm not committed, you know, AI is the future, and I'm not like AI is the devil. I'm neither. I don't know, my jury's out about that. In certain ways, I think it can be awful. In certain ways, I think it can be useful. My personal experience is this, you know, I've gone 76 years without being able to write a song. I played music. When I was 4 years old, I was playing keyboard, right? I've never been able to write a song. Write poems, write lyrics, which have music in them. Yeah, I could do that. But, and I've fed some to other people, and sometimes they come in, sometimes they're not good, and sometimes the people are flaky or irascible, or they have their own amazing limitations, and I can only do this as a pop song or something like that. But AI goes like, well, what do you want? I'm here for you, let me offer you some, and I give it some suggestions. And it does stuff, and I go like, no, 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 not that. But we work towards creating songs. It's my tool. And the question to me is agency. Who has agency over the thing? If a robot has agency over this process, it's over. It's over. But as long as it's me saying, all right, what can you give me? And making the choices, and even saying, nope, didn't work, flushing. As long as the agency is mine, I am the creative director of that experience. And like I told George, he doesn't like this. AI doesn't get drunk. AI doesn't get DWI. I hope it shows up. And AI pays attention and learns. How many musicians have you worked with where they go like, oh, this is what I do, this is what I do. And it's stuck in their own head, which is what it is. It takes, and I learned this from David Adler, it takes listening to be a good musician in this sort of a situation. I was at the Bowery Portrait Club. Here we had this benefit for this forum in New Hampshire. Thurston Moore was there. Wow, 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 yeah, and Ira Cohen was there. These musicians, and they did. You had to climb over the top of this mountain sound. And they were not listening or paying attention at all. They were just laying it down. It was up to you to figure out how not to get, drowned like a kid at a surf, and get all scraped up by the sound. So it's about listening. And those who do it are the ones who succeed. Everybody who ever did jazz combo where Charlie Parker steps up to the microphone and works the song and contributes his point of view about it and his tangents and his elaborations and his ability to take flight and don't know where to land. And the musicians you listening and going like, yeah, and paying attention to how he's doing and adjusting what they're doing. That's the experience.
You're not gonna say that AI could do what Bird could do, right?
I guess not there, but it's pretty dumb. But it does listen. It does listen. I've been working with AI, and that whoever that AI quasi creature is, humanoid is, it's getting to know me. It's getting to know me, and it goes. I feel it editing to meet my needs. It's like you have a dog, and the dog says, I can't jump up on the bed. AI knows that you can't jump up on the bed.
You're right. Oh, and thank you, George. Anybody else got any other questions? Comments?
I don't know, is that awful? I mean, I was just like, shit.
So,
Mark.
George, we were in conversation over it, you said, something that was much more powerfully, given in the poetry. I mean, it's a truism when you say it in regular conversation, but how in need we are of something like this. Which has probably always been true, but it feels especially true, in the last few months. And, to see that demonstrated, to feel those children released from their cages in the point, in the moment, in the power of that, so then the point is balance. And that's what I think, um. Not being restrained by actual facts, no, but fighting against it, resisting the facts as it were, so, well done, Paul.
Well, yeah, I used to be a journalist. Like, and I used to believe that journalism.
Different demands.
Was a different state, right? So there was a separate estate. You got government, you got different versions of government and but you have journalism, which is a separate estate to try to, try to influence the shape of society. I don't, I shouldn't believe that anymore, but I do believe that we have the potential, as poets to be the fifth estate, or the sixth estate. We don't have something to react, rather than reacting, saying, right, I'm gonna join this protest, and we're gonna stay away from that protest. We have the potential to have some other thing to say than what everybody else is saying. And I know this from having been in Casablanca and in Guatemala in the past 6 months and Greece, that there's a hankering in every country that's for the word from in the poets of every country that I've experienced to speak our language out loud. Because our language is not being spoken by politicians or journalists or commentators or social media influencers. They're speaking a certain language and trying to frame the world in a way that's the same. Well, we
In a way that's
do it suits them,
Yeah.
and we're gonna do a half-assed job of, being as good as them at being who they are. No, we have an opportunity. We have an opportunity right here to make it happen in ways that they cannot. Look, yeah, I know about it. I mean, I don't think that there's anybody out there in the street that's really gonna catch. But you Zoom, I Zoom, you go to places, I go to places, we share, we have commonalities. The speaking, the opposite of being a loud voice is to be silent. And that's an unacceptable proposition. I won't be reduced to being, political hack of any kind. I want to be an important, decisive poet in a community of poets, doing what only poets, speaking the way only poets can. Oh, yeah.
Pollyanna on, that was wonderful.
Huh?
Yeah. Pollyanna on, I think that. Really nice to hear.
Okay. Thank you.
If anybody wants to check out what we're just done lately, the poet page.
Yeah, buy one of those books on the yes.
You get
We take a couple minutes, think about some more poems, maybe memorize.
Oh, yes.
I'm relatively new. I'm relatively new to all this.
Okay.
I just got into it back in.
Really.
My daughter's one of the college that suffered from depression from being, yeah.
Remember I
Came down here one night and just developed all the poetry. Yeah.
So,
Oh, yeah. It's,
I actually, I sat mental health. I know with kids.
I was going to come to Pollyanna, I've been doing this for, what happens is,
I work with kids.
I found good, and then we,
Bipolar.
you can talk about that, yeah. So, I mean, it's been wonderful.
Yep.
I know. Okay. Yeah, I said we're gonna do we're gonna do the.
I started this program in 2023. And it was a remote program. I was doing home.
Oh, yeah.
That'd be great.
It's not an original idea, but I think it
Hey, some of the best ideas aren't completely original.
And nothing, and pie is always good.
Yes.
I did part of the poetry and pie.
Now I work at, up in Washington.
Yeah.
I work at, facility that's, on the cultural home.
I think we might do that here.
And I look
We're
at.
not gonna be getting, this thing.
I walk to the place, like. Same place, maybe.
Well,
Yeah.
there's an advantage for being big, actually.
Here it is.
Yeah.
But there's also, it's also.
Yeah.
I hear you. I got serious.
Oh, they would do that.
It's great, yeah. I mean, for example, tonight, we should be a lot more faithful, but that's, it's, I wanna get, we got a minute. Or more focus. Have this about, you know, like just, write a word to Bob. He's a just poet.
Well, part of what I do too.
Who's Bob?
So that's one you don't know. Okay, that's okay. I wanted to be somebody you know. You know George Grace, right?
50 minutes to
Say a word.
I represent the I drive all the way to Fulton,
If that.
which is an hour and a half. Then I drive a half an hour to center, an hour and a half of that. Then another hour.
Looking for you.
So, that's, I was looking forward to this, and like, I need to do something. I mean, you know.
I imagine order one, I don't know.
Right. Perfect. Just for you.
Yeah. I know you. Yeah, I thought you do. I would have you. Yeah.
That was, seeing it, now we got it.
Thank you. All right.
There we go.
I hear you.
Don't worry about
This one's for, Bobby Donna.
May first.
Right now, no Victoria tonight?
Anyway, my grandchildren.
Oh, okay.
You want
You
your.
got four.
Maybe.
She sees that.
Either way.
Yes,
Yeah. Oh, there you go.
I'm in line right behind you.
Yeah.
Bobby said you saw her.
Yeah, they throw him.
I know. Scott. Hold on, Scott. How are you?
That's it.
We're always.
Just follow through on it. Well done. Hey.
Some of the best people.
Yeah, you two and then also. Besides the interview of the board.
Like I have.
Yeah, you can just.
So.
Quick night.
Personal feeling, it's like I work with these kids, let's say, they're just 1 years old. And that's for all of them, I think all of them do this, you know, and eat that.
Yeah, I remember his description down the first fire case.
Yes.
It's like that.
I was thinking that. When you're 70. What do you? Oh, yeah. That's why I learned how to gas to.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I used to.
And I can quite that horizon. But, I don't think that
Actually, literally, he came to us from that.
we can live a long time. We gotta be ready.
I know. You gotta keep yourself busy.
So now
Maybe, on, Jack's place, after we talk about the house side of the other stuff.
Yeah, I wanna do some things like combining,
not quite, I'm not.
like, combining. Once in a while. Work is coming.
So fast that
Maybe a little bit less than.
This and.
Wow. It's good. Oh, that's what I'm thinking.
Then plus the gravel. Park you should be okay. But you know, I'm gonna get help. Like that.
And what has the niece did?
I think she's, you know, a few more years. Doing a few years, probably part of the office.
She's gonna be back in. She's currently.
We're gonna have a place. Yeah.
Dependent on that agreement. Yeah, okay, so that's it. And then, wow.
Make a certain.
So you active and yeah. Oh, you did that once already. Yeah, but you like this, you wanna be in Brooklyn?
Yeah.
I wanna be on the island.
Oh, it's a lot of years in this place.
These are great. These-
If you're in the street, you can like, you trying to get on grass in front of her. So you're.
Just like, stuff before us.
And you tell somebody else is good.
Exactly.
It was cool.
That's it.
Awesome.
Is there a
So-
It is.
Thank you, sir.
It's the persnickety.
Thirty years.
Well, it's close to 25 years from the birth of my son.
See, that.
Yeah, yeah.
What are you hawking these books? I'm over there. I'm actually going to book that.
So.
Not really, but I ate it. I'm just not a huge fan of.
Oh,
stuff.
the state. Yeah.
Well, for all free.
It's like there's no framework. Oh, I was trying to describe that, but like, now I know what the words are, it's really fascinating. Well,
I'm okay with that, as long as it's an expanding.
Correct.
Yeah.
yeah.
If it's a-
But I might even put. It's really hard. Yeah, but I mean, I'm reading unless there's set over. I just.
I was from the song. Yeah, it's true. So you breakfast when you came, so I'm gonna be chill.
Okay, now.
No, I don't want to, yeah, put it that way.
Okay.
Also like some poetry, this spelling out. Well, I'm gonna read the one. I'll tell you where that is. Oh, my, that's a beautiful rock. There you go, man.
No, it's one of the things they make here. Like in Oakville. Yeah. Yeah,
Oh, yeah, okay.
okay. Sorry.
Yeah.
So now I'm insulting the secretary. I was looking to cut out.
So. Yeah. Those are good.
Oh, yeah.
I stole that idea. Yeah.
Oh, hell, you know.
I used to walk like 2 miles.
Then I'm circulating for a while. I'm almost positive you don't know what you're. So if this is the one for George Glaze, that's probably done. I don't know if it's gonna, but.
Where else?
No, I don't think it is.
So just,
They're all.
good luck. He's new as old.
Oh, yeah, no, they bake.
And that's the series. And he's not be short. And they see this in that.
Sure.
That that's 4 hours, that you can try, you know. But just good luck, it'll be fine.
Yeah, you guys have any stuff I've
That's
done?
fine, super, but we're gonna see him, they were going to watch this last little program.
Yeah.
I can't, I'm just. It sounds like an interesting book. I just.
Yeah, I hear you.
Yes, so.
Yeah.
If you haven't signed up to read, and you'd like to read.
Thanks for.
Anything new from the shelf so we need to leave? I feel like I was at one and it's been.
I was thinking about another one, it's so cool, he said that. I was pretty sure he was gonna say,
Yeah, possibly.
I see.
I never heard that discussion. Will you?
Yeah, it sounded like something.
Yes.
Say.
Very interesting.
Yes, have you ever been to that house?
I was a fast.
Yeah. Well, I never.
Yeah.
Because of,
So do you? It's in the building right next to it. Seventeen. Yeah. Oh, is it?
I worked Scottsville till 5.
Hey,
thanks, Peter.
Great.
Yeah, George Grace is in here somewhere. Yeah.
all right, folks, I'm gonna start with this open mic. There,
Here's the list.
do we have a name?
Yes.
First one. Oh, look, Steve, you love to ask you every night.
Yeah. All right.
All right.
I agree with George. Speeches, music. Like George singing. The least of these. As the shepherd separates the sheep from the goats. Some think these words apply only to believers, or whatever group we believe we belong to. What about those who do not speak our language? Those who do not speak at all? What about the silent? What about the standing waters, moving waters through soil underfoot? What about those who give themselves up to feed us? What about the hills? Do you believe they don't feel the trees on their backs? What about the stones buried or standing on which we build? Are we the only ones who suffer hunger, thirst? What does the root know that we don't? Yeah. Okay. This is an answer to Friedrich Nietzsche. Beyond good and evil. Real, unreal, surreal. We summon you up, Bizarro. Our Superman demands you. Do you recall the cartoon Bizarro, who was by some freak of nature, time warp, or atomic accident thrown into our galaxy? Superman's opposite. Opposite, but not opponent, because he was not evil where Superman was good. He was incompetent where Superman was sharp. Powerful as Superman, genius and weak. He was capable of great wrong way feats, squeezing diamonds to coal and flying underground. A sad, muddled figure. Shouldn't he have been a she? Feared and loathed by earthlings, while the man of steel was hero and protector to Gotham. Bull in an interplanetary china shop. Bizarro could snuff the sun, not whole planets awry. Great, powerful, foolish child. He'd go on a rampage for a trifle, then regret his anger the next moment. What a temper he had with his twisted, cracked mug. He might have been funny if he were less powerful. Yeah, just one more, maybe. No, two more, sorry. One long one. Well, touch me not. Touch me not's a plant. Also called jewelweed, which can help if you've been poison ivy. Out for a walk on a day between summer and fall, I meet an old man coming my way walking on a stick. When he sees me ahead, he withdraws to the creek side and finds himself comfortably on the naked body of a huge dead elm, cut while dying and left there. I point out poison ivy vine, but he says, "You don't bother me." We've both chosen to walk this crisp, sunny day on a trail built over an old rail bed right by a creek headed to the lake. He's Bob and a house builder. He names a subdivision near the lake where he built the first street of houses. We talk about our gardens in terms of bushels of potatoes and tomatoes and what uses we plan for them. We park, he to his car and me for the rest of my walk another mile home. I paused at a primitive memorial, handmade white cross and painted stones invoking the Lord's help for Jeremy, a handicapped Amish boy who drowned in a little pool here, got in, entangled, couldn't get out. I saw the emergency services removing his body, but didn't know his name until today. Downstream, several trees produce a whole pile of hard green walnuts, bombs or missiles that take one to hold and grasp hard for odor, memory, crush under wheels of plumbers' trucks in my grandparents' backyard, near the piles of scrap pipe and galvanized wash tub full of crayfish, living and dead, kept for bait. Numerous shoulder-high rows of yellow jewelweed or pale touch-me-not grow luxuriantly on wet ground, mostly water themselves, kept even wetter by this wet summer, reaching out with swollen seed pods to be touched. Touching them causes a squirming in my hand, an involuntary explosion, scattering seeds far and wide, ensuring more jewelweed next year. I can't forego the touching. In Jeremy's name, my right hand squeezes the walnut for scent, and the fingers of my left hand feel the jewelweed plant fibers writhe alive, promising to live yet again. You've heard that a couple times, Scott.
Yeah.
And Bright. This is about a cafe in Canandaigua. It happened in a cafe in Canandaigua. It's not mentioned here, but it's the Dollar Java, which has nice roasting, coffee roasting set up there. And it's right on Main Street. And Scott and I used to do an open mic series there. Right. I was running behind all day because of my resistance to waking up for an extra hour. Had more important things to do. As I left the cafe, there was a penny on the dark mat before the door, new, shining for all it was worth, minted this year, bright in sunlight through the door on drab gray fabric. I looked ahead and back, slowed on my way, bent, stooped, picked up and pocketed. Thoughts, I've got none.
Everybody.
Scott Williams.
All right, let's see what we're gonna do here. Now, let's start off with one from my latest book, called Gambler's Woods, from Moonstone Press in Philadelphia. We read from here. We read one from here. Well, there it is, okay. Ivories. Shortcutting from school. 5-year-old me crosses fast moving cold spring lane. Edges dead old farmer Langston field. Wanders the woods across the road from our flat. Among the trees are glades where 4 to 6 guys shooting craps. Could scare me to poop in my pants. When the men of Gambler's Woods rolled snake eyes or boxcars, they prayed to God crows would drop or pick blackberry dots, and ripened cherry quarters would fall from the sky into the mud tire tracks. Sorry, I left my glasses home, so it's tough reading.
You want readers?
Yeah.
Those help maybe?
That's how I'm out, so that might help out. But if my head's not too big, let's see. Oh, yeah, oh, good. The George Washington's Grant Bluff, when 7-Elevens mimic call from mother's rosy dreams of a once promising son's rise. 7-Elevens give fuck to future for a day, an hour, a moment of respite from that, "Mama, I'm sorry," reality. I saw a man's die stumble over roots of a nameless plant that changed a die's 5 to 6. Mr. Jim was stabbed after saying, "That boxcar, I'll roll again." That die turned into my first death. Peeking behind trees, I learned in Gambler's Woods never to gamble. Now, after finishing the book, getting copies of it, I wrote a sequel. Here's a poem from the sequel. It's called Rosalie Varnichen. First I saw Mr. Varnichen. He was standing at the fence of his yard, next to the start of the Gambler's Wood path to Godmother's house. He was near my father's age and a haggard man, slightly bent, head cocked to the left, so I thought he would bark and bite. That's when my fear of that house began. A year later, friends began talking about how much fun they had at the house with Mrs. Varnichen. Soon I was one of 3 or 4 boys invited to go down the carpeted stairs to play games in a pine-walled basement. Monopoly, or Cheesy, or Clue, with cookies, soda, and creamsicles. Not quite 30, Mrs. Varnichen was beautiful. We drowned in our 1950s beds, sunk by her bullet bras and tight blouses, stretching our mind's eyes 4 dimensions, left, right, down, and deep inhale. 5 riding khaki shorts, touched from long, big, tan legs to our wish. Sweet perfume and bold red lipstick, breathing, stuck to my novice cheeks through the half-hour shower at night. I longed for that legendary solo invite hinted at by the older boys. her dry clean her husband's schedule, 14 hours for 6 days, set fire to my damp head. At 12, I had no clear idea what I wanted her to do, but I wanted her to do it like the ball bearings and boulders in our marble parlors. Once more than twice my age, Mrs. Bonita remains a memory energizer through 2 marriages and innumerable girlfriends. Now a gray lady pointing at 97 with bold red lips and withered bullet bras. So Mr. Bonita is gone. Then we're reading something really much newer. Okay. This is called Pulling Plugs. If I can find it. Here we go. Okay. Putting in plugs. Thursday, I awoke to drilling, hammering, and worker camaraderie. Electricians are adding outlets to my daughter's home. Why more circuits to turn on machines? We need power transmitted by air and clouds. Heavy clouds float yellow when ready, gray if depleted. Plug your toothbrush and cell phone into the ball. Fireflies blink lightning attack on little kids playing late in the day. Children say, Mama, I barely escaped death at the park. While we are at it, how about river water comes up the sidewalks? Buildings were cleaned off by gallons falling every hour on the hour. Everyone wears galoshes to work and changes twice a day. Wallpaper and toilet paper become the same. Drywall takes on a pornographic meaning. About recycling. When I lived in a European communist country, pages of government newspapers were left in bathrooms for wiping. Definitely no Charmin with that cheap cost shiny thing. All the news fit to wipe. Just like the Washington Times or the New York Post. Must be wax in my ears listening to an audiobook last night. Time to polish the floor. Zach, ouch! Who clogged up the damn mirror?
No, no, I'm on my own, George. Oh. I can't see you. Oh. Disappeared behind the column door. Thanks for your read. This one's for you, a jazz poem. Roy Hargrove Quintet in Paris. Black Grand lightly plinks, intros, first notes. Drummer knock knock stick on rims. Hargrove hears the beat, that it is good, approves, and bassmen do what bassmen do, finger walks the chords and sets the groove. Hargrove phrase trades with sideman on sax breaks, piano takes it, works it, pounds and builds. Hargrove returns, blows solo, eyes closed, halo, center stage, knocks dust off tunes. Arise, arise, souls over spires of Saint Denis fly, list instrument high. arches back. Might and soul aim bell at heaven, lips and lungs push breath through metal. Unleash resurrection ecstasy. Who's shaking Jericho? Angels rush to see. In second row, woman sways, eyes blaze of, oh, what I would do for you. Beautiful, cool trumpet man, drummer, bop kabops, thump thump, bliss. I'd rather stand. Is that too much? Warren? Balance. Easily lost when a stepping stone wobbles. When the canoe enters rapids at the wrong angle and is caught. When the trucker misjudges the mountain on a curve going down. Balance. The beauty of it when held. The skater over the frozen lake at dusk. Savory and sweet aromas fill a kitchen. Anticipation when sitting down to eat. But sometimes too, in a restaurant by a window, a solitary diner, grace of manner, fall of light. In sports, the arc of a ball, hit or pass or shot. The moment made indelible in the mind of every fan comes to define an era. Balance. Not discipline, but what discipline achieves, the appearance of effortlessness. After endless hours have trained the fingers to fly light and nimble on the keys till melody pours like water. Balance of power, first strike capabilities, how many warheads, tanks, and planes. Accounts, earnings and expenses, added, subtracted. Do the math. The clay pot, earth brown, unadorned, 3,000 years old. How the ballerina trembles en pointe. Balance. The muscles of the thoroughbred or bull quivering under the hide, human rider on its back, the gate about to spring. Balance. The widow at the top of the stairs. Knows she mustn't fall, must keep it. Alone in her house for years, every step's been careful. She peers down the dark staircase. She knows her suitor is patient, will wait for their embrace.
You're next. All right, yeah, come along, everybody.
Hi, guys. I'm gonna sit because I'm still recovering. These are all pretty new. Sovereigns and sea glass. A word builds a nest in my hair while I sleep, constructs it of leather and onion skins spattered with Jesus' blood red speech. All night she works, scarlet and pointed, wings fold like newspaper, feathers spread adjectives. Her cap is the color of Times New Roman, and stomach stones grind in her cheek. Brass, creak, rust and bone, click, unhinge, unhinge. When I was a child, words unpicked my ribbons, bareheaded, thread, unthread, steal what you must, give back what you can, sovereigns and sea glass, obsidian. Who creates the word, the world? Who makes her flesh, burns her at the stake, resurrects her from caves in Qumran? Who owns the word? Who captures her voice? Who finds her dead in their hands? She eyes me, black and bright. Her mask unveils me, the beak, yellow as bamboo, tongue pewter tapping, key wound. My fonts all sans serif. The word is unimpressed. Grasp, creak, rust and bone, click, click, click. I don't know what it means. Good housekeeping. My mother said she didn't work. She was a housewife. If you love your job, you'll never work a day in your life. I remember her fan of feathers trembling over crystal, shadow boxes, brass, the gasp of the vacuum, elongated, strangled, stroking the carpet erect as the hair of the nape of the neck. A spritz of lemon sparked at pulse points, mirrors and windows, white cotton sheets, sun-hot bleach sweet, floated into her bed, her fingers deep in their folds. And when her naked limbs sank slow into the dish's scalding bath, steam and creamy bubbles, sponge, she always removed her wedding rings. For decency's sake, I suppose. If she had a job, it was us, my siblings and me, my father. But like any good teamster, she rarely showed up. Oh, she'd pay her dues, bend the knee, kiss that which she was required to, but the house she kept like a faith, like a vow. I can't say I understood it then or now, and I may never understand love, but like obscenity, I know it when I see it. Alive right now. They used to say it was space-time, but the new thinking, the new scientists tell us it's mostly just time. That space, this glorious environment of scent and light and the drone of lawnmowers and cicadas, is just paint on the canvas of time, a color rather than a room, but a color you can enter, a scent you can wade right through like water, up to your hips and lilies and fish, and feel the push back against you. Its specific, nearly solid weight so real you can lean right into it, lay down on it, let it hold you in its sturdy, reliable embrace. That is space, say the doctors now, the thinkers, and time, more real than you can comprehend, spreading out in all directions, rippling away from you, your solid body, and you cannot catch it, can't contain it. So you may as well just stretch out in it and body surf. This wave will carry you back to the sand, but the next will pull you so far out you may never see home again. And this one will fall on you like the hammer of heaven and drive you down, down further, deeper, colder, darker. What waits there at the bottom of the bottomless? Hold your breath. Only time will tell. Time and tide, waiting for no one, showing in your face the face of a clock, hands on its hips, glancing at its watch, tapping its foot, old grandfather clock with a mouse in its ear, tailless and blind, but scurrying, hurrying, and who knows why when the scientists assure us there is more time than anything else in the universe. We shouldn't worry. Live in the present. Take up space. Saturate. Marinate in it. Breathe in. Accept the endless blue, the ochre handprints, and let what is yellow and green and alive right now breathe into us. Thank you.
Jennifer was telling us earlier how she was afraid she was slowing down in writing poems. Don't worry, we're good.
False
Good,
flag.
good. Celia,
Mm.
Lewis.
I loved it. Okay. We've done this a while. Nice to be here. And I'm gonna read two that I have not ever read. And these are about the place I moved to. I've recently returned to, moved to Western New York State, where I used to spend summers as a child, where my grandparents, great grandparents, lived before, and where my mother grew up. And it's been it's very fairy tale like as a child to be here, and living here has been different. So amazing. But anyway, here are a couple of takes on moving to this old but new place. This is 150 years gone by. And it starts actually in Michigan, on the shores of Michigan and Union Pier. Black Currant Bakehouse sits across the street with Milda's Lithuanian Market right here at Union Pier. I'm heading north soon to Jack Pine Country, where my great-great-grands made their lumber money, looking for the impish Kirtland warblers, nearly lost while trees fell by millions and parasitic cowbirds flew in from Great Plains to lay big, glossy eggs in tiny warbler nests. Decades of cut timber shoveled down the Ossable River to Otsego, loaded onto fleets of steamships, cruising south via St. Clair, through Detroit to Lake Erie, then like an arrow to Tonawanda's mills, east again by Erie Canal to Albany. The forest lay flat and floating. How many birds sang here? How many hands touched that wood? How many tables, chairs, boxes built? East of Buffalo at the summer house, might a few still be here? On weekends, folks flock like happy pigeons to the Blackcurrant Bakery. Not so much to Milda's. The coffee is rich and cheaper here. Luscious cherries droop at eye level. My hands hold rubies. I'll find the warblers, offer deep apologies, and tip a hat to those rare humans who heard the gaping silence after the saws stopped whining and brought you back, now 2,000 strong. I'll float like timber down the Ossable south to Detroit, east toward Buffalo, sprinkling pine needles, singing as I go home. Nice.
Well done.
Thank you. Let's see. And then the next one. Just give me a sec. Let's see. This one is about kind of trying to recapture
some of that childhood, magic. And, it's really not too hard. Thin places that live. Let me start simply. Worn blue jeans, thin at the knees, brown corduroys, so worn there is no cord left, only dirt. For me, birds, in particular the Blackburnian warbler's song, disappearing far, far above the treetops. The sky with threads of snow geese, or narrow-necked sandhill cranes passing over. The rare song of a meadowlark. Shale, narrow, layered rock through which water seeps. Gas escapes in mysterious, seamless patterns. Devonian fossils peeking through time. The creek appearing, disappearing, with the pace of rains. Ginkgos turning green to gold to brown. Here's a place thinly woven through time. Threads of families, gardens, horses, peonies, sheep, countless gatherings as music arises then fades away, and guests, so many guests, keep filling in the worn out spaces. Even a teardrop can be thin, and all the spaces between heart and mind, body, no body, a summer house, a fire, a resurrection.
John Young. Very delicate instrument, be careful. Right. It's got a little, I'll catch it fast. So recently, I've had, actually I've had a near death experience. I work for Hillside Family Agencies, and one of the things I do is I transport kids home. And back on July 11th, we were T-boned with someone ran a stop sign and smacked into us and hit us full force. Scary experience, couldn't get out the front doors. It was a big 12-passenger van. Couldn't get out the front doors, couldn't get out the middle doors, and there was smoke coming in. And one of the kids, I was transporting 3 kids, and one of the kids, he climbed over the third seat and pushed his way out the back door. And I mean, he kind of led the way out. It was really cool to see. And I yelled, everybody out the back. And fortunately, just some minor injuries. I had some bruised ribs, and one of the kids had a concussion. And so I was, I was back to work doing the normal thing, transporting kids home. And I was trying to think what I wanted to read tonight because I haven't had time to write anything new. But I wanted to read kind of a classic, and Shel Silverstein, Where the Sidewalk Ends. And it's really cool because it kind of plays off of what you said, George, about, I mean, obviously we're in some crazy times and some kind of dark times, but taking a moment to really appreciate, the lighter side of things. So where the sidewalk ends, there is a place where the sidewalk ends and before the street begins, and there the grass grows soft and white. And there the sun burns crimson bright, and there the moonbird rests with his flight. To cool in the peppermint wind, let us leave this place where the smoke blows black, and the dark street winds and bends, past the pits where the asphalt flowers grow. We shall walk with a walk that is measured and slow. Watch where the chalk white arrows go, to the place where the sidewalk ends. Yes, we'll walk with a walk that is measured and slow. And we'll go where the chalk white arrows go. For the children they mark and the children they know the place where the sidewalk ends. And oh my gosh, would Beth be proud of that? Those of you who know, I was horrible at performing.
Yeah, just to complicate Shel Silverstein, as I mentioned to John earlier, he lived in the Playboy Mansion. Must be really trouble. I think we're at the end of Wallace. Yeah, good. So. And get me, sorry. This one is for Bart. Jennifer, who a couple of years ago put together an anthology of poems inspired by films. So these are a couple of poems that I wrote when I was in the hospital this summer, because what else do you do when you're sitting on the wall? Dead people in movie trailers. For films they were never in, and sometimes as stars and sometimes friends. My long ago near-door neighbor led a cast of dozens on a film called High Blazes, about oil rigs and rockets sending the populace fleeing as they crashed to Earth for reasons only the film or my neighbor could explain. The deceased stars shunned interviews, but for sequins on the Seine, they were Sparkle and Dior all night and into oblivion. The dialogue flashed words like enchanté, which they sold as tags and finished with darling. One named Marlon St. James also shilled for a thriller that got caught between noir and postmodern spare. His character went by many names no one ever knew or cared to. A friend of yours, a woman of promise, had a premise to die for in hers, which she did years after her heroine sat wasting under a fiery tree as a tale until now forbidden to tell, dissolved in the sea behind her silhouette, which you still recall as she sidewalked through her day job dusk. Again, I echo Jennifer, I don't know what that means. Is it really matter? Sidewalk to the day. Yeah.
Spectacular.
So when I was in the hospital, I had a bunch of different people taking care of me up in Rochester. One guy who was the night nurse would come in at like 2 in the morning. He was from Haiti. And he would, I asked him like, how's it going from Haiti to Rochester? And he's like, well, I hate the snow. I hate the cold. But my kids don't know the difference. So I knew he had a whole story that he wasn't telling me. He was a very serious man. He was very protective of the people. So started with him. And I was thinking about Kubla Khan, I guess. In Xanadu. In this storied land, companions multiply. Ndugu, father dead in Rwandan wars, youngest of 9, whose mother found their way to Denver, where he swore not to shame her, became the warrior surgeon of Buffalo who saved me. Mr. Poet, he said, you and me, we don't like winters, but when the snow falls, my little ones smile. He doesn't, as he draws blood and gratitude, as at his flank stands Chingmon Helen, her English learned in American school, her mother having made their way, peddling fortune 7 days a week, who knew then as now and not now, she had entered the land of wonder, as in this fortune, with small tools, one may cut a path wide enough for all. Always proud of this enclave oasis, she built unique nails of Atlanta. She bears her shield while her daughter bears images and words, those arms that paint cuticles, clean the wounded, so the early comers understand if they choose to see. I am the warrior poet, born here, the child of people who arrived at Xanadu against their fondest wishes, but here practice love. I rely on companions for language, for subjects, for music and metaphor. Ahead of me are the fallen, defying the early comers' fears, their own fear of resemblance to the First Nations slaughtered in the place the sun revealed to those lingering spirits. We march across bridges with bodiless voices, over flaming craters that crackle with imagined hatreds, nothing more than groans and howls in toxic air. Ahead of us, book of strength and healing held in hand, marches Vaish, the masked migrant who battles solely with thought and story, acts of suspense, acts of resolution, apprentice on a Texas oil rig, a rig of fire set to explode and kill his comrades, except for putting out a fire on his own, no time for alarm, only sacrifice, belief, compassion, smoothing the sea on grievance. I am a voice to sing their odes for those who answering guns and squall. Someday may we, the whole of Xanadu and distant lovers of its legends, grow timeless enough to hear them told final time. So, I really want to thank everybody for who's come out tonight for coming, and I really want to thank George Wallace and Gabe. Acknowledge me again, well, it's just a spectacular book. So this is the last regularly scheduled reading in the Finger Lakes Art Series. And thank you, George, for coming out. We are going to do other events, and I will let everybody know via social media and our tremendous listserv, when these events will be, and then maybe we'll get back to something regular soon enough. Let's see. Well, thank you all. All right. Have a good night. You're gonna go eat dinner. Everyone wants to join us.
I need a head count. I'll need a head
Can
count.
we have a round of applause for the series? How long have you been at it?
We did it 10 years ago when George was here the first time. We had it for about a couple of years, and then it stopped, and then we picked it up in 2020, and then COVID happened. And then we picked it up in 2022. So, yeah, it's got a checker, the reason the long history.
George.